All of our productions at GCTV are sponsored in part by Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3191 or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. Visit them at gcc.mass.edu. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com. Call them at 772-0838 and check them out on Facebook. Real Cleaning Services, cleaning Hampshire and Franklin County since 1972. We don't cut corners, we clean them. Check them out online at realclean.com. Call them at 413-422-1143. People's United Bank, located at 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. You can call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. The Solar Store of Greenfield, replacing fossil fuels and nuclear power one home at a time. Visit them at 23 Fisk Ave. Call them at 413-772-3122 or visit them online at solarstoreofgreenfield.com. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all of GCTV's productions.
At 6:32. Welcome everybody and our press. I did hear from Mo and Tim that they were not able to come tonight because of work. Tim is somewhere out in New York and Mo is working where she works. So we're down to the last meeting we spoke about. Nobody's taping, right? Except us. I'm still working on the minutes from last time. So, and they should be ready next month. I'm trying to catch up on them because I'm kind of got behind. And then we have the homelessness proposal that we sent to the mayor. Now, I could be absolutely wrong. It was my understanding that when we voted on this, we voted not on the content, but only to move it forward. I don't know, I mean, that was how I remember it, because I remember distinctly voting that I was not, you know, it wasn't the content of it, it was it was just moving it on to the mayor. The
content of what?
Huh?
The content of what?
The content of what you had submitted.
No, I think we vote, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we voted on an actual resolution, which is why I emailed you regarding...
Right.
Yeah.
See, I remember talking to the press about it, that I wasn't not voting, I mean, I was voting no because I didn't want to move it on to the mayor at that point. I didn't think it wasn't something that we had, I don't think we had decided on it and discussed it, and I'll have to check Rod's minutes, which unfortunately I don't have with me.
Yeah, Lou's correct.
Yeah, I think we did. It was pretty clear.
That was a clear vote with one abstention on putting that whole resolution to the mayor.
But had we voted, it was my understanding, and maybe that's where why I wrote it that way. It was my understanding that we were voting on forwarding it to the mayor. But the content of it, I thought there were, I thought there were things we, had to look at too, but it was my understanding.
I
don't
think,
know.
yeah, pardon me, I think globally, what we did on your initiative, which I thought, and I think we all thought was a very good one, I think we agreed to deal and look into the homeless issue in Greenfield.
Yes.
All right, so we did, starting in December. I thought we thought that the emergent homeless problem was emergent, and we should, before deciding on anything else, send that to the mayor. Now, my understanding was that you wanted to spend, your opinion was to spend more time finding out what the police or the mayor or the whoever else is involved in this officially may have wanted. But what we did is, I think we had a very substantive discussion on the resolution. I thought that we had agreed to, we actually discussed it, debated it, and voted on it. So this is the part that I'm a little confused about. I don't get it.
And it would appear that I am also a bit
Yeah.
confused over it too. And I remember thinking that, we spoke about how people should be housed and especially in the cold weather, there should be shelter for them
Right.
somewhere. And we didn't have, I didn't think we had in-depth information as to, for example, what the police do. I think that, my thought is that they, not just police, but other safety factions in town, that they certainly wouldn't leave somebody in the street. No, they wouldn't leave them out there if it was very cold. I mean, they may not be that visible, I don't know. But I just thought that there were a few more questions that had to be answered, and I was voting on, because I didn't want to send to the mayor at that point. However, the vote passed and it was sent on.
So this is my issue with that.
Okay.
What exactly did you think you were voting on, or voted against?
I was voting against passing it to the mayor at that point.
And I respect that, and I
Right.
agree with that. And I agree with that's exactly what you said. But you were voting on a resolution.
See, that was not my understanding. I mean, I have an answer from the mayor now, which may make all of this discussion moot, so. But I just didn't want to pass it on them because I wanted more information. And to me, that says if somebody wants more information, they may want to evaluate different parts of it again, or keep looking at it. So, Greg?
And I'm glad that you got a response on it, so that's like the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
But, I think we made the motion to submit Lou's resolution to the mayor, and it's the form that it was in.
Right.
And so you had the 1 no vote, but I think that's almost irrelevant because it was passed and we sent it.
I think a no vote or any vote is relevant, whether it be the lone one against or the lone one for. Every vote here is relevant.
Well, sure, but we weren't gonna, because of 1 no vote, we weren't gonna rework the whole thing. We had agreed to send it to the mayor, I thought.
The voting outcome said yes, we would send it to the mayor.
Oh,
But what I'm saying is, whether it have been my vote or anybody else's vote, everybody's vote is relevant. And so, yes, it did go on to the mayor, but, and as I said, I have an answer, and that was probably, an apology to Lou. It was just my wording in the agenda, because it's there. The response is that he is selecting, it was like 3 people, a 3-person panel to take the resolution and, look at it and come back with answers next month in May.
great.
So.
Well, that's good. Yeah, so you sent it to him and he responded, which is great. And yeah,
Okay.
perfect. Nothing wrong
So
with that.
anyway, yeah, that's that's
So
the discussion.
can you give us just a little more, is that, I mean, did he send you a letter or an email, or is this what he told you, or,
We spoke on the phone,
yeah?
and that's what he said he was going to do. He had sent me an, I didn't print it out, and it was much more, let me pull it up.
So a
Basic-
three-person panel to address the resolution,
Yes.
and then they were gonna let us know, or,
He said to me, and he may be here tonight, he said they should have a response, a more complete response, all those three people, next month, for our next meeting next month.
did he just, I agree with what Greg said, I think it's very good news. Did he say who they are they homeless, people who work in the homeless community or advocates, or?
He didn't say.
He didn't say.
I don't even know if they've been chosen yet. I mean, he didn't say they have or they haven't been chosen.
So there's not like a specific response to read directly from the mayor, it's just like next month we'll
Right.
have that
Yeah,
forward.
he's appointing this panel, or has appointed, I don't know, but they will definitely have a response. Next
Because
month.
that's, I mean, that's kind of what I expect the procedure to be, like when we send them the motion, I think it's important for us all to read it like directly from him, what the response is. Not that, I mean, you guys talked on the phone and he said he'll have it next month, so in this case, that's fine, but, it's definitely good to say, here's what the mayor wrote me back and hear it right from him.
Right.
But no, that's good, so
Yeah.
on for next month.
So we received an invitation to attend the grand opening of the Greenfield Center for Wellness. I was not able to print out the whole thing, but it may be here. And I think all of the boards were invited to this. So I think they're looking for not necessarily names of people who will be attending, but kind of a number. Let me just pull up the thing.
Now, is that the new John's On Center?
No, right down here, the,
CHD
used to be the
and
juvenile
the
court.
medical
Great.
clinic
Yep.
and the dental clinic all,
Excellent.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
almost
great,
done.
it's right downtown.
I guess it is done.
Yeah, it'll be very accessible. But it'd be good to learn more about,
Take care of body, brain, and teeth in one spot.
yeah. So that will, just kind of keep going through this. It would be good to attend it.
Could I, if that's fine, before we move on, I just have one
Okay.
more question on homelessness.
Okay.
So my assumption is we're still in public hearing. We haven't closed that. We're still proceeding on this. And I just want to make sure that we have a consensus, so we're clear on where we're going here. So we heard from Claire Higgins, which was a very enlightening evening. Lots of good information. This would be, I would think, as far as you're concerned, Lorraine, your concerns, this would be the time you might want to call upon public officials in Greenfield to talk to us about what they do as far as emergent homelessness is concerned, if you want.
Well, I think that certainly Claire's, the information she gave us seemed to be very comprehensive. Who else are you looking for?
Well, I'll tell you my personal thing. I'd
Okay,
like to
please.
learn one more thing.
And I'm just looking for that,
Sure.
I'm not being rude.
No, I
hope
understand.
not.
One of the things that I was intrigued about after the last meeting with Claire was the issue of communities and municipalities adopting a housing first policy and putting people into housing at once as a policy and dedicating resources to it, not the state. but the municipality. And we had a discussion, as you guys may recall, about what Greenfield's doing with the tiny houses and the cluster development on Deerfield Street. And she talked about single residency occupancy, which is necessary. And she brought up MJ Adams, who does a lot of grant work for Greenfield, whom I think works out of this office.
She does.
Is she? So I think I'd like to hear more from her, if she would like to come, about, I know Greenfield's active, I just want to know how active we are, and whether we need to hear a little more on that. The other thing is, at the conclusion of this, let's say, is it my understanding that the commission wants to make a formal recommendation to the mayor on a more global homeless policy for the community?
Yes, but we got a long way to go to get there, I
Okay.
think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, oh, here's the invitation. I think doing that that we would take the panel's discussion, whatever they have come up with us, for May, I think we
Yeah.
would need to take that into consideration, because many more things may come to light as to, what we're already doing that have not really risen to the top, that we're aware of. Sarah?
I also have a recommendation. As you remember from last meeting, I attended the Franklin County Resource Network meeting. I would encourage anybody to attend those meetings, because that's where that kind of percolates. People share resources, and they identify needs in the community, and everybody networks with each other. So I think that's a great place to start. When I was there, I did invite all of the folks that attended that meeting to come to our meetings, and said when we meet and where, and have them be part of the conversation, so we can really understand that scope what we're talking about what our complete needs are here.
And when do they meet, Sarah?
They meet, I think it's every first Monday. I have to look and figure that out. Let me just look at my notes and get back to you.
Well, it's usually fun, because you had sent me that.
Yeah.
thing, too, so. All right, flip back a little bit. That open house is on April 20th. I'm not able to actually,
Every first Thursday at 9 a.m. at the John Older Center, Wynn B. Allen.
do you have the time frame also?
9 to 11.
It's
9
a
a.m.
day thing then?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I did look at the stuff that they do, and it really is quite a comprehensive group of folks that it would be great to connect up with them, and so that we can learn what is already out there too. It's that we don't really want to get back to reinventing the wheel again. It's
Right. They have the
accessing
Hunger
the-
Task Force that meets. I wrote down, I have some information I can share with you guys about the meetings that they do have there. And that's the folks that do the Center for Self-Reliance.
All right, why don't we, okay, we're doing the business. Anyway, let me just first say this, that open house is on April 20th. It's a week from this Friday. I don't have a time because my computer won't let me, on my phone won't let me bring it up. Cannot download yet. It's probably during the day too, but it would be good to introduce ourselves to them also and let them know, see what they do. That may very well fit into things that we are doing.
So if I may, on the
Yeah.
homeless issue, and you, Lorraine, had said there was a couple other things that, maybe we didn't fully hash out at this point, which I would agree with. I think tackling that shelter issue was like the first and foremost thing that seems pretty clear that the city needs to figure that out.
Right.
But then there's all these other issues, and Lou just asked, will we eventually make a recommendation about the problem as a whole? So I guess I was curious, you obviously had some thoughts last month on other directions that you wanted to explore, and what those might be going forward.
Well, I think as far as, you know, what the city is doing now, and that was part of why I was hesitant, because I wanted to learn really what all was out there. You know, I think the way I look at it is, we have, you know, we have goals that we have to do, and it's how you get to that goal. I think we all want the same goal, you know, people to be treated respectfully, people to be housed and warm, and you know, not be food insecure. And I think it's how we get to that we have different approaches, but we end up at the same place. And that's, I think it's good to do that, because then I can learn from other people, you know, maybe something I hadn't thought of, and I hope that, you know, we can all learn from each other, really. And I tend to want to look at it a little bit more thorough, because that would be my approach. Philippe?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to look at what all the organizations in Greenfield are doing, kind of add up what they're doing, and then we can identify like where the gaps are and really attack those points. To, you know, if we're looking at the menu, and it's like, you know, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, but not on the weekends, you know, things like that.
Right, and Tim did bring in a printout of all of the meals, you know, that are being done in the area. And, you know, we may have a goal that this is what we want, and it may already be being done, just in different ways. So there may be gaps, there may be shortcomings, it may be something that the city as a whole, municipality, isn't able to provide, but because there's a lot of other agencies that are doing things also. This, you know, we're really very lucky to live in this area, where there are so many social service agencies just stepping up and doing the right thing. So I think, you know, and I think you're right that we need to know what all of them are doing, and the resource that Sarah brought in will certainly help us figure out what others are doing, and they can know what we're here for too.
Absolutely.
And what we're doing, and sort of work in concert with them over it.
Yeah, I think we're lucky to have Sarah here with her connections and experience. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I have the information for the Hunger Task Force, which is kind of what we're talking about. And they meet every first Tuesday from 1 to 3 in Oak Courts. And Justin Costa from the Center for Self-Reliance, the food pantry, kind of heads that Hunger Task Force. So I think it's a good start for any one of us to attend those meetings and kind of see what the food needs are, because if you're homeless, there's probably a 100% chance that you have food insecurity. And there are gaps in the meals, you know, there's no Sunday evening meal, and they address that, and they address the access to food and healthy food. You know, because if you have access to food that's not healthy, it's not really helpful to you and your health.
When do they meet again?
It's every first Tuesday, but they're meeting this Tuesday, tomorrow, from 1 to 3. They changed their meeting time just for this month at Oak Courts in Greenfield.
Yeah, I'm off on Tuesday, so definitely try to attend that.
Yeah, I'm going to try to attend myself, because I'm curious. I know a lot about what is available out there for folks that have food insecurity. I have food insecurity myself at times, so it's interesting to see what they're doing and how they're pushing legislation and our legislators to make them aware. You know, Jim McGovern is always really involved with the belly bus, you know, things like that. So it's kind of see what resources and what funding is available for that issue.
Yeah, Jim McGovern has been very supportive of us in this area, as Dan Rosenberg and Paul Mark have been too.
And don't forget Monty. Monty Belmonte.
Yeah.
His Hunger March.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like there's a lot of people that are raising like bulk funds, bulk foods and things like that. And like I said before, just like identifying those gaps.
Right.
Where we can possibly, maybe a group needs a little bit of someone to advocate for them, you know, on behalf of them for the towards the town. You know, that's the type of thing I think we could do.
Sarah?
Can I ask a question? Because I don't remember, and I was on the other side when we had this conversation, but a long time ago, we had this conversation about going out into the community and actually interfacing with folks that are homeless. Did that ever happen, and what came of that? You know, what kind of data was gathered from those interactions, if any?
I don't think, we didn't, I know we spoke about it, but I don't believe it happened. If it happened, it wasn't, you know, it's something where we said, you know, go out and see who's there, and I know Philippe had been part of that.
Yeah, we did a little trial run, but I would say that did not happen.
Yeah.
And that there was some objection to that. Or some question of like, what would the specific like purpose be? But we've also discussed like a lot of other cities, granted, you know, typically somewhat larger than us, have a task force that the city runs made up of the police and social services and, you know, someone from the Human Rights Commission, et cetera. And they do exactly that.
Is it something that we can revisit? Because I'd
Yeah.
be very interested in, you know, a lot of my
We should.
peers, some of them are homeless, some of them are homeless by choice. And I think it's helpful to have somebody who has lived experience in that to kind of take you around and introduce you to other folks who may not want to come out of the shadows because of stigma or fear or shame, and actually have conversations. What do you need? What is not here for you? And acknowledging and respecting the fact that some choose to remain homeless because they don't want to be part of a system.
Good point.
Right, no, that is a good point. And I think one of the concerns we had when this was previously brought up, it was exactly that, you know, approaching other people. They may not want to be approached. I mean, there are just so many variables and things that could go right and things that could go wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely a
And
liability.
the things that are, yeah, and the things that could go wrong could be serious too. So we did not, you know, go forward. And I guess the other question to that is that the best way to access that information? I mean, is a modified version of it a good way to access that information, so it's good for us and also good for the others. Greg?
And we would kind of, I know I sent you the article about Worcester and we kind of
Yes.
briefly touched on it, but I think that's a really great model. You know, us as a volunteer Human Rights Commission, there's only so much we're going to be able to do on behalf of the city
Right.
in terms of liability and time and everything. But, you know, I think it's extremely important that the city has that kind of program that's made up of actual town or city officials. Maybe one of us is there each time. But, I mean, primarily it's the police, the city government, and social service agencies. Like, the city should be working with ServiceNet, Salvation Army, find out where everybody is and start going around. And then that builds onto the other thing we discussed about having a set area for not a homeless encampment, but some sort of structure to be built. You know, Worcester has one spot now where everybody is. And it makes it incredibly easy for the service agencies to just go down there and make sure everyone has what they need.
Right.
Instead of having, you know, someone's behind the tracks over there, someone's uptown by Latin Woods, and everyone's just all over the place. No one knows what the real count is. So I think that's really important for us to push forward.
I'm wondering if that would also be under the realm of the Public Policy Task Force, who also meets. I don't know if it'd be worthwhile for us to attend those meetings as well. They meet second Wednesday of every month at the Housing Authority. Because it sounds like a public policy issue. You know, we should have a policy on homelessness. Should be a task force, and that might be a good place to kind of explore that with the folks that already exist in this task force, and we can add it. If it's not there, maybe we can push to advocate for them to add this to what they're doing. So you're not recreating the wheel, you're just kind of, you know.
Exactly.
So the idea is to not get the Human Rights Commission to create a task force, but to make a recommendation to the town to do so?
We would make
And
a
for us to be
recommendation.
involved in it?
Yes, I mean, it would depend on what the task force was going to be, and there may very well be some semblance of a task force out there, and we don't have that information. I mean, it may be that there are 2 or 3 different places where this would be covered under a, you know, under what's already being done out there.
Well, it's
Well, let
one-
me volunteer a little bit.
Yeah,
There actually was, or is, a Greenfield Human Rights, homeless task force. If you recall, as far as I recall, when there was an issue of homeless people camping along the railroad tracks back here, proverbially known, quote unquote, as the jungle, unquote, it became the policy of the administration to essentially, with the help of the railroad company, put an end to the jungle. This led to, from what I understand to be, the appointment of a homeless task force, which I don't know if they've actually done anything.
look at recent history. They were
Right.
camped out on a certain town official's property, and the solution was to clear them out of there too.
Right.
So it doesn't seem like there's much buy-in on,
So, and I agree, and there's all, through the years, I think there's all, like a policy task force. Let me ask, whose policy is this task force?
The public policy is under the FERCOG, Franklin County Regional
Okay,
Government. and-
which is a council of governments.
Yes.
So what we're discussing, which is great as far as data, in my opinion, and information. What I'm most interested in is a Greenfield-centric proposal for now. Okay? And I think that, I think Philippe had, his idea is wonderful, to bring people in for the work that they've done, to fill in the gaps of what's not there. I don't see us as that task force. I do see us as perhaps giving rise or a spark to that task force. Right? So, if we can bring the work that's being done now together with the data that has already been collected together, bring that into a recommendation together, which I think you're right, Greg, is going to take some time, but I hope it doesn't take the rest of the year. You know, I think we can do this by summer. And make that kind of with a task force of people who have been committed to the issues of homelessness reduction in the community for years. You know, I think that would really move us a lot closer to where we want to be on this. But when I say that there may have been other things, other task forces perhaps, that I don't mean to disparage anyone's good efforts in the past. I think that there were certain things that were one project oriented, you know? And I think that what we've been talking about with the police and the you know, the community meals program, and we've had service net, and we've talked about sheltering, we've talked about literally housing, short-term housing, is something that's far bigger, you know, and some,
Yeah.
and I think, you know, and I've always been cautious about big stuff, but in this case, I really think we can do this. I think it's doable.
that's what we're finding, as the
Right.
more we dig into this, the more
Right.
we can see it's pretty clear that none of these issues get solved by just piecemeal work.
Right, exactly.
One example from sending the proposal to the mayor. Okay, he'll make a task force with 3 people on it to talk about this one specific issue of opening up a free shelter. Do you really need a task force for that? You know, I mean, that's one little tiny piece of the larger puzzle. So I would like to see the city say, we're taking a firm stand that we're gonna prevent homelessness. We're gonna deal with anyone who's homeless as far as giving them all the resources that we have. If they wanna live on city property somewhere, maybe we help them find the right spot. I mean, there has to be a direct approach. The more you just say, well, we did this one little thing and we solved that, like, we shouldn't be checking off any accomplishments at this point in Greenfield, you know? So I think you're exactly right. It's a bigger picture, and it probably takes more, the human commission's place is probably to say, hey, this is an issue that needs its own organization to deal with. You know, and
Because it
Hey,
can't be
Mr.
dealt with in a shallow
Right.
way, you
No.
know, just for someone's popularity.
this is the mayor and city council. We need to tell them, hey, we've heard from numerous organizations, from the public, and what our research has concluded is that you need to deal with this.
Yeah.
This is simple.
And what I feel comfortable about coming out of this evening is that I think it's very clear that's where we're headed. So there really should be no surprises. I mean, I think as far as what the work product may be, our work product down the road, you know, there's obviously, you know, there's obviously a gap here.
Right, and Lorene has an excellent approach thus far as chair, where we're really exploring things fully.
Oh, indeed.
And we're not jumping into things and making
Indeed.
rash, requests of people. So that's one side of it. The other side is that I think largely where this commission does best is when we discuss things and push things so much in our own meetings that the city council and the mayor and stuff catch wind of, hey, this is coming up the pipeline and we better get in front of it. Versus, let's wait for the Human Rights Commission to say, this is what we're doing wrong. Let's try and fix it first.
Right.
So I think like you said, there's gotta be some inkling in the city government that we're talking about this every month. And eventually, there's gonna be some movement there.
Yeah. And the mayor, from what I read, was very positive about it.
He was, and
Yeah,
to Greg's comment that I think the task force that he's putting together is a good function. I don't think we should discourage that because they're responding to our request. That's his response, and we'll get more out of it later. So I don't want to discourage, them from not doing that because I think it will be a valuable tool for us. And it may, this whole issue and a resolution to the issue may not completely, rest on the shoulders of city government. As we all know, government can't do everything. They can there's certainly so much that they do, and sometimes that's very limited, sometimes it isn't, but they can't always be expected to do everything. And that's why we have the social service agencies, and that's why they fill in the gaps, and they more than fill in the gaps in some areas. So I guess I want to work together with them on these issues. I don't want to be, as I said, I think before, I know I've said it before, like adversarial and saying, okay, you do this, because this is the right thing to do. It's like, all right, this is our goal. We all think that's the right thing to do. How do we encourage others to join us in that? And how do we get it moving forward in a way where everybody is feeling good about it? I think if you push people, then it just sets up a really, can be a negative environment. And I kind of wanted, and I'm not just saying that that's what you were saying, but I wanted to make a point. Wanted to make a point about I think that the mayor is moving with this. He's appointing these people, and we have to accept that and really applaud the fact that he read our material, and that's one of the ways he's going to be dealing with it. He may not have other ways to deal with it. That may be the best thing, and then take their recommendations, and hopefully they'll be here next month.
Yeah, I'm extremely happy to see what they come up with, so.
I'm encouraged by it anyway.
You're right.
So I think that we're all have the same goal, and we all have kind of moving in the same direction. We just have different styles. And one isn't better or worse than the other. It's different, and it's good to have differences, which is what diversity is about.
So are there further steps in this process, or are we just waiting to hear from the mayor and then we're going to figure out what other steps? Because delegating different aspects of this to different commissioners would probably help get what we need to have done and the information that we need if there's a lot of different things to do.
Right.
Like I can take a piece, Sarah can take a piece, Lou, Greg and yourself, and whoever else.
I think the mayor's, whatever they come up with is going to be important, important place to be working from. And we have to be also aware that, and I've been told by the mayor this, that we cannot set up liaisons. We're not stopped from going to a meeting and reporting back, but we cannot set up a particular liaison with that title. Like Sarah brought all of this in, this material, which is great. I think attending those meetings would be great, but we cannot like set up somebody as a liaison, which is, we can do it in an informal way,
Mhm.
in a way that meets the regulations that we're governed by.
So we can't officially attend
No.
as,
No, you can come, well, like
you
Sarah.
can
she-
attend, but not as a human rights commission.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can be as a human rights, but you can't say, hey, Philippe is the,
I am representing,
He's the guy
everything I
for
say
this.
is what everybody's agreed upon here.
Yeah.
Well, that works
So I
pretty
have
good
a
with
question.
that.
Why?
Why what?
Why can't we?
Why can't we what?
Why can't we send a liaison to another board or commission?
That was what the mayor told me. I don't recall him being elaborating on it, but we can go to these other places, but we cannot have like an official liaison. It's to the
Is that
school
in our
board or
charter?
something.
Yeah, I'm just
I don't know. I
very,
think-
very, I mean, and I'm gonna tell you why I asked, because I find it curious that that we may be the only board and commission that can't, you know?
I mean, do other ones do it? I mean, it's kind of like a wording thing, isn't it?
It is a
You know?
wording thing,
It
but you
is.
know what's
It
good
is.
about it is it's also a relationship thing. The planning board and the zoning board of appeals do it because they work often so closely together. That has been my experience, and I only know that because I was one once with them. I think the school committee does it. The Human Rights Commission is certainly an educational and an advisory commission, as we all know, but I'm just not aware of anything that says we can't have a liaison relationship with another board or commission. If there is, I'd like-
Especially like public safety or public policy.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd
these
like
are
to be
such people
educated
who-
on it.
And we'll need to send a representative from here. Like, I remember when we were talking about other issues in the past, we wanted to create some kind of consensus, send someone to public safety to make some kind of a statement. We need to be able to do that from time to time.
Yes.
Well, these are the powers and duties, which, on the, chapter
Yeah.
136.
On the enabling ordinance of the commission, which I think we're all aware of. It's just that every other board and commission has them too, but none of them really discuss liaison relationships. It's like an inherent thing that I always thought with boards and commissions, so.
Right. If Philippe starts going to public safety every month, he inherently becomes the liaison. We just don't say he's the liaison.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
They're gonna ask me questions.
I mean, it is what it is. I know what you're saying, but
Yeah, I'd like clarification from the mayor on that, because I'm kind of
Biggest fish to
scanning this, and
fry.
I don't see any clear language that forbids that. I mean,
I mean, as
the rules
our,
of procedure, it says that we can set our rules for administration with the mayor's approval, of course, and then you drop down to powers and duties to obtain information and documents, request staff support, and other help as necessary from our. So we're supposed to be engaging with other community organizations and groups, but I don't, because I read this before I came here too, because I had not had the chance to review
Right.
chapter 136. There's nothing in here that says that we cannot be liaisons. So I would personally like a
Right.
clarification from the
Mhm.
mayor. Where in the charter does it say that we cannot do that? Because that kind of goes against what we set up for this commission of what we do.
it's
Can you
definitely
make
not
that a
in the chart,
motion just
but-
like that? Is that okay?
Yes,
Second.
thank you.
So
Well,
there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded by myself, because I completely agree with every word of that. And what it would do is, and if I may speak with your permission to
Sure.
that motion. What is so critical to this is that the one board or commission in this community that is charged with education, and relationships, for some reason, may or may not be able to have liaison relationships officially with other boards or commissions. Certainly, they speak of the school committee in the ordinance, right?
Yes.
Us and the school committee. So that was seen as important, but I think clarification is long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
do you want to tell me your motion again?
I move to make the motion that we communicate with the mayor to get a clarification on the forbiddance of liaisons for the Human Rights Commission to other
Okay.
departments or committees in town.
Yeah, that kind of a restriction could be undermining to what
Right.
we're trying to do.
Right. I know we cannot, the other thing I was told, cannot set up subcommittees. That was clear that we couldn't do that. All right, so it's been seconded. Do we have a vote?
Any
A discussion? Discussion.
Yeah, I would say, you know, I think it's a wording thing. I think we can go wherever we want to go as members of the Human Rights Commission. And, you know, the mayor is the de facto member of every commission, and he does have some
Right.
executive direction that he can give us. And personally, I'm willing to accept that he doesn't want to have us call anybody a liaison. He doesn't want us to set up subcommittees. But I don't think it really affects our operations too much. But nothing wrong with some clarification.
Right,
So.
absolutely. So do we have a vote?
We give you
All in
that.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passed.
Yeah, before we get too far off the homeless issue, I just wanted to say, I think it would be nice if we sent a little thank you to the people who've joined us so far. Just really like stay on those relationships, you know, send one to the captain there. Just thank him for coming. If he ever needs to contact us, here's how.
I
Same
did
thing
send,
with Claire.
did someone to Claire.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
She was like the whole meeting, it was great.
Yeah, well, you're ahead of me then. That's good. Yeah, that was really, dare I say, one of our most informative meetings for me,
Yeah.
for sure.
It was, absolutely. So, okay, we just, now, Sarah had wanted to put in the organizations of the community action, which she's already spoken about a little bit. Do you want to speak more on that?
I just supplied the list of the organizations that regularly attend the resource meetings, so you can kind of understand the scope of people who are connecting. You know, they had ServiceNet there, they had the Center for Self-Reliance folks there, Community Action, which has too many departments and things they do for me to name, but they all were present. The Opiate Task Force was present, members of the Recover Project were present, and as people share what they're doing, what the needs are, it's a wonderful way for people to connect with one another. And say someone's new to the community, they just got hired into the job. You have this meeting was very well attended. There was probably 40 people there, and everybody had business cards and information, and you know they leave flyers and things like that. And they talk about what the needs are. One of the presentations was about conflict coaching, and you know this lady offers a service to folks to help them move through conflict and how to communicate more effectively when you disagree with somebody, which I think you know is needed in our society. So it's just a wonderful resource. Mary McClintock chairs the meeting. I think we should send her an invitation. That's my personal opinion. She does a lot of wonderful things in this community, and she is an absolute resource.
Mm-hmm.
And she could talk, Mary McClintock.
Oh, Mary,
Yeah, she can talk more in depth about those community, but those are the players in our community that help people. They're the helping professions. So anybody there is in the helping profession was there and talking about what they have, what they need, what they don't have, connecting people. Like I didn't know anything about the Public Policy Task Force. That's something that interests me. They presented what they're doing. The Hunger Task Force presented what they're doing. So it's a lot of information sharing and networking.
Mm-hmm.
And then this report came out of that zero intercept model, which we are the first in the Commonwealth to do this. And it basically, it's an intercept of folks who may fall through the cracks, you know, whether they're in crisis or they're in danger of being incarcerated. It's this stopgap measure, and they spent a lot of time, a lot of data about what is needed in our community for that. And that covers everything from like treatment to food to housing. It's all in here. I mean,
Right.
I'm just really proud of my community for doing this. And I haven't even gotten through this whole thing because it's overwhelming, and it fills me with joy that our community actually invests at this level. You know, and this was a combination of the Public Policy Task Force and the Opioid Task Force together combined to create this document. So I encourage everybody to go through it, read it at your own leisure, and attend the meetings and ask questions. And that's pretty much what I learned. I mean, I attend them regularly, so it wasn't a surprise to me, but just the amount of folks that are now attending these resource meetings, and they're open to anybody. Any community member is welcome to attend and get resources and information.
And they're meeting, you said the
First Thursday of every month.
first Thursday.
Yeah.
And you've pretty much been going to most of them? Or are you off hours?
Yeah, I go often. I
Okay.
go to every single meeting.
No, that's great though. I mean, that sounds like exactly, exactly what we need to be going to.
Because then, yeah, we can understand the gaps and what's
Right.
needed. And so, like you said, I think it's a great idea to plug in those gaps where they're needed, so we're not recreating the wheel. And there might be something that's offered that needs a little support also.
They're already doing almost everything that we talked about.
So that's May 3rd is the next one, the next meeting for them.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's on a Tuesday morning, you said?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursdays,
First Thursday morning, yeah.
9 to 11.
That would be before our next meeting.
Where do they meet?
The William Allen Room at the Oprah Center.
That's the big conference room on the ground
Downstairs.
floor, yeah.
I knew Bill Allen, he's a good man.
It appears I won't be able to make it because it's going away. I'm meeting family up in Vermont at noon, well, 11:45, so. But it would be good if others could go and we could sort of glean off the website. So,
They also talked about something that's going to be affecting people, you know, who are homeless but may also have health insurance, Mass Health, because Mass Health is transitioning to ACOs, and it's causing a lot of anxiety for folks. So they're doing an informational meeting on the 13th about that. So there were some health folks there to talk about, you know, that upcoming meeting and what that transition means for people.
mhm.
Because I'm sure you read the paper, there was a lot of people that were dropped from Mass Health, thousands across the Commonwealth, without any really clear understanding of what was going on. And a lot of those were the disenfranchised and marginalized people in our community that were directly impacted.
One of the things that surprised me when Claire was here speaking is that we are a right to shelter state. But if you're a family, if you're only a single person, there's nothing. There's nothing that reassures that you will have some sort of housing. That surprised me. I mean, I think that, of course, the family aspect is critical and important, but not everybody is in the family situation, so.
Well, if you look at the identified shelter, I'll just call that, I mean, it's classified as an emergency shelter, but it's not really an emergency shelter. It's not a shelter that you can go into at any point, you know, like a traditional shelter. You go in and in the morning time, you have to leave, and your bed doesn't remain your bed. This shelter, it's a long-term placement. So when you leave during the day to do whatever you need to do, you return it in the evening, and that bed is still yours. So it's a little different. I think it's because it's through ServiceNet, so they're able to reframe that. But that surprised me too. Why isn't there a right to shelter for individuals in the Commonwealth? And how can we advocate for that as a commission? Because that's a state-level issue. You know, the right to shelter for an individual that I don't know if it's something that needs to be changed in the ordinance in the Commonwealth or even in our own city. Something needs to change about that, because it's not okay.
No, it seemed a little odd to me that single people, you know, who are homeless, they don't have anywhere, anything to fall back on. It's just too bad. Well, and you're right, I agree that, you know, there may be another mechanism for changing that or addressing it. We have not always as far as I know, it's not always been a right to shelter state. So we move forward with that, so then there's other areas that are left uncovered that we could certainly work on. So I think that's a great resource for us, is that Thursday morning meeting. All right. So hopefully people will go to that next month and get back.
I will definitely be there. Yeah, I'm welcome to come with me.
And we spoke about the grand opening, April 20th, over here next door, and I think it's going to be a great asset to downtown. Certainly for people who don't have transportation, and I don't exactly, know what their parameters are, who they serve.
Yeah, anybody can go there.
Yeah, so it just seems
they
as
take
though
all
it's
insurance.
it's really, a positive thing for our
Mhm.
city, especially because it's right downtown. It's so much easier to get to.
They're very excited. I met them about a month ago. They were
Okay.
speaking at Jim McGovern's visit to the Chamber of Commerce breakfast meeting. And it was really interesting to hear about how it's like a one-stop center. There's like so many different social needs and medical needs and dental needs and physical exercise and wellness, all that stuff connected. You can see your doctor and then go to the gym.
Nice.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. So I'd be really interested in going to that and finding out the scope of what they offer people.
Mhm. And that's at 106, is it 106?
Yeah.
That's where the juvenile court used to be.
So it's right next door, right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Good use of space, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they did to renovate it.
That's
too.
another thing that I like about this idea, is this block on this side, having something like that there is just gonna create a lot of positive traffic.
Absolutely.
Positive
Yep,
traffic.
it certainly will. I mean, it's a huge asset, for the city.
Besides the fact that my favorite antique store is on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
You just live on this block right here.
No kidding.
Is there an apartment?
Now, is the community health centers going in there, is that correct? They were the community health center has a really rich history of the healthcare as a right. When they first came in this community, I was one of their first patients in the basement of the church next to the town hall.
Really?
Yeah, and there was only like a couple staff, there was a nurse and a doctor, there was one doctor. I actually think it was Sarah Campbell, rest her soul.
Probably.
She passed. So it's just interesting how they blossomed and how that idea of healthcare as a right has become national. Because it was actually the physicians, National Physicians for Healthcare, that started that movement that healthcare is a right. And so I didn't have insurance back then. I was a college student. That was before the mandate and everything. So that was the only way I got care.
Yeah.
So I think it's wonderful that they're really re-anchoring themselves right in downtown.
Yeah, it's great.
And they really are a great resource. They've always offered dental and all incorporated, let's call them ACOs before they called them ACOs. They were already there. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, they just did a program in collaboration with Just Roots, where they picked a bunch of test subjects. A certain smaller number of them would not get the food every month.
Oh, yeah.
But then there were these people who they were just giving the organic produce to on a monthly basis. And now I think they're ready to release some results to see
Great.
if that's actually, done something medically. And I
Right.
think that's a fascinating study.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely,
It's great.
yeah.
Connecting diet and health, and it's so in line with what we're doing, having a safe place to live, having good food to eat,
Right.
creating a healthy community.
Yeah, no, that's
I'm
great.
glad it came back to this week.
Well, there really is a lot.
We're glad to have you back.
And now you can't miss any more of them. You know what I mean? Now you're on the hook for all.
I know. Things to calm down.
Good.
Well, and I think there's like that with that study in the Just Roots, there is a lot going on in the community that is good. And, we tend to sometimes think about the negative and, well, this is wrong, that's wrong, let's fix this, let's fix that. But I think it's also nice to have a balance to see what really is positive out there. And this type of a center certainly fits into that.
And it's a challenge for us. I mean, we're like many other representatives in town. where people bring their complaints to, so sometimes that's all we ever hear.
Mm.
So I'm glad that we're taking up some newer issues.
Yeah, and we've all, we're all bringing our experiences to the board too, Sarah with yours, we all bring a different background to it, whether it be homelessness or workplace bullying or, just some of the struggles and some of the resources that were out there, that are out there. There's more now than there was before, which is great.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying about so many positive things happening. And to me, like, I see that, but it seems like there's so many positive things happening that people actually, they miss the gaps, so I think that's a place where we can really help them.
Right.
Is not only see how we can help the different organizations, but also to see how the organizations can help each other. Because they're often running, they want to solve the problem, and sometimes if they don't go to this resource meeting, they're not going to know a lot about what the other organizations are doing.
Right. And it's just to give you guys a little snapshot of collaboration, I was
Thanks.
actually
Take
at
care.
the community meal at Salvation Army this afternoon, and St. James Church brought food over that they just happen to have extra food. And that happens a lot. The Center for Self-Reliance sometimes will bring food to the Recover Project that needs to be eaten because it's going to go bad. And they know that we have folks in there that have food insecurity, and there's a collaboration, an informal one, and I was just, and some of the food, granted, is not healthy. They brought a box of Twinkies. I mean, that's not healthy food, but
Hey, watch it.
they also brought sandwiches. So it was both. So I see this wonderful, it almost like people, their eyes are open, they're opening their doors and saying, oh, hey, I'm over here. Hey, what do you need? Okay, here, we're going to bring you this because we have extra. And there's the appreciation from the captain of the Salvation Army, and it was a packed house. Every person there applauded the food, everybody was just grateful. So it's just, there's a lot of informal stuff going on that we should also be mindful of. That's positivity, stuff is happening, and raising awareness of the issue is one piece.
I think too, having this, the health center all under one roof, just, will show everybody how important it is to have everything together. Now, we're talking about that here, figuring out what is needed out there and getting all the answers on one page, or at least, at the table, instead of being spread out so much. So I think that's going to be a huge model for the city also. And there is a lot of positive things going on. It's just not always, it's just not always public.
Positive press sometimes doesn't spin well, but negative press does.
Let's make
Oh,
sure we send
absolutely,
the minutes to the recorder from now on too. I mean, I know they've been trying to come, like, we can't expect them to stay for, 3 hours, but it'd be nice if we sent them our minutes every month, even if they're not here.
He has a deadline of 8:30.
Yeah, right, so,
yeah.
we gotta help them out, but.
And we'll be, with tapes too, which is
Right.
useful, for sure.
Is having that
Yeah.
article about, community action being at the meeting last month, I think was really good for the city to see, like, these issues are out there and they're being discussed, and there's some collaboration between the city and the service
I'm
agencies.
pleased to see, I agree with you, I think we should send this. I'm pleased to see the media's level of interest in this. Because unless there's something, some incident or something, especially the general issues of homelessness and poverty, people, you just tend to forget it. But I'm sensing, I may be wrong, I hope I'm not, but I'm sensing a sustained interest on their part. And that's good.
Yeah.
It's very educational.
Well, it shines a spotlight on what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because not everyone can attend our meetings.
Right.
And
Try and give them-
print, anybody can go to the library and pick up the paper and read it.
Right.
You don't need to pay for it. So that, I think that is, and it's free press, it's free PR for us to have the press here and writing good articles about what we do.
And over the last several months, I've noticed that they've really expanded their scope on what they report on.
Yeah.
So they're taking up a lot of stuff, and that's
Right.
really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well-
there's some new people over there.
Last month, we spoke about having the school department and police and others in to discuss the plan, or if there is a plan in the schools in case of a crisis. And that's going on across the country. And I started to contact them and then realized, and found out actually, that they were going to be at the town council meeting, on the recent town council meeting. So I thought, well, they're gonna only, if they were to come here, they're only gonna repeat everything they said there, and we can go online, and, because it was videotaped, of course. So, all, the Chief Hague was there, Chris the Mayor was there,
The last town council meeting on the 21st, is that
Yes,
what you're referring
yes.
to? Yeah.
yeah, because I watched it on TV,
Yeah.
and then I said, oh, this is perfect, there's no sense in, having them do double duty on this.
And the superintendent is attacking that issue with fervor.
Yeah.
She's
she
really
seemed-
on top of
yeah,
it, Jordana.
she seemed to be,
Yeah.
yeah. And, Chief Hague, he of course had been a school resource officer for a while. He also was involved in the boys' basketball team years ago, so he's worked with kids, because he was my son's coach. And, so he's worked with kids for a very long time. He's not just a chief of the adults in the town, he's worked a lot with kids too. So anyway, they gave a great presentation, limited as to what they could say, because you don't want to turn your hand, turn your cards all over.
And I think they discussed that in executive session,
Mhm.
the town council meeting before, and I think this last one, that
Yeah.
those like details. of what
Right.
You had to.
Yeah, because they have to,
Yeah, we don't want.
in privacy.
Now, is that something that we could have them, that might be something that we could have here and call executive session, and have those same individuals inform this commission about what that safety plan is?
Mhm.
Is that something that we can do, or?
I can certainly attempt it. I don't know that, do we need to know all the nitty-gritty details? I don't know. I want to know that there's a plan in place, and that it's sufficient by their standards, and that they certainly are going to be looking out for our children.
And I'm comfortable with that on a personal level,
Yeah.
but should we be comfortable with that on an official level?
I can check.
Should we
yeah.
want to get them to come here and just at least tell us what they're doing?
Right.
Is there a human rights application?
Right.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of asking.
Right. No, that's
Because
a good
it
point.
could, like, security could also, like, go beyond people's rights.
Right,
So
and
it's the
impact
type of thing
marginalized
that
people, yeah,
would be interesting to know.
Right, and it would be, because there's, the schools across the country that are uncomfortable with some of the things that are put in place.
Mhm.
Such as in Pennsylvania, when they had buckets of rocks that the teacher was going to use, and they were teaching the kids, how to throw these rocks. And it's like, all right, so the kid in the first line is probably gonna get hit in the head or something, instead of the.
So the teachers are
perpetrator.
throwing rocks at their pupils to discipline them?
No, in case there's an intruder.
Oh.
Or, it was like, I think that idea was a bucket of rocks,
Yeah,
to
that's-
be honest.
There's
Sarah?
also this, I don't know if it was an article or it was a news piece, and it made me really sad at such a level that I can't even go into it. It was an elementary child standing on top of a toilet seat, and her parent asked her what she was doing, and said she was practicing in case they had an incident
Mhm.
where she had to hide. And she was maybe a third grader. I mean, that's, I can remember like hiding under desks for like the Cold War, and that's, this should never happen in my generation, but we still practice under the desk, that was
Mhm.
traumatizing.
Mhm.
But for a child that young to have to do something that they shouldn't even have to think about, it really impacted me. It blew my mind. But that's reality where we are right now.
It is the reality, and I think that some of the better ways to deal with that, not throwing rocks, for sure, but is to
Well,
have.
security shouldn't be in the providence of the teacher.
Right,
You know,
but to
that's-
have security at the door,
Mhm.
to have some, whether it be metal detectors or something, there's certainly enough of them around. So I just think that that's a better model for our kids than to throw rocks or hide somewhere. So, I don't know what is going on here, but we can certainly make an inquiry about doing an
Yes,
executive
I think our
session.
purview there is limited, it's certainly, we had the discussion about school resource officers after a fight at the high school, and, there was some disagreement on whether we're for that or against that. I'm not sure we have a real say.
I think
Yeah,
people were
absolutely.
really divided over that, not
Yeah.
just here in the commission, but in the town, for sure.
And that played out at the town council meeting. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there
I
was some-
agree to that.
yeah.
You know, and it's also, there was conversation, and I think would be one of the solution is, somebody asked a really great question of, you know, there's locks on the doors during school hours, all doors are locked.
Mhm.
So what's to preclude a student from slipping out, you know, middle school, high school kids do it all the time, and, or letting somebody in. You know, there's no motion detector, like so when they brought it up, I was like, that's a really good idea, you know, you have, where if it's the resource officer, they would have a room and they'd have the monitors, and if one of those was open, you know, they would be alerted that the door was open,
Mhm.
and they could see it, you know. I mean, I hate to put cameras in our schools, but maybe one that just looks, you know, outside, like
All
a
the
pole
entrances,
from-
yeah.
right,
And
all
that- yeah.
all the entrances, because that's a simple solution without further militarizing our schools with resource officers.
Mhm.
You know, so I think I hope it's being discussed in a meaningful manner. I didn't attend school committee meetings to see if it's being discussed, but it's a simple solution for safety.
Mhm.
That probably wouldn't cost a lot of money.
Probably not, and you know, the resource officers, everybody seemed to be so divided over that. You know, for me, my opinion is, I think they're an important element in the schools. I worked in the schools, you know, I worked with the resource officers, and they really did a lot of good. And the issue with that fight at the high school is that because they were juveniles, we don't know the whole story, you know, we can't because they were juveniles. So there were things that just could not be brought out into the open to shed more light on it, and never will be because they were juveniles. But having worked in the court system and in the school system, I think a resource officer is an asset. And I know that's not universally not, you know, approved, but having been there
I
and done
agree.
that, I see it. I mean,
Makes sense to
I'm
me.
conflicted. You know, I also have experiences in the public school systems for a long time. And what I see is missing, is blatantly missing, is guidance counselors. You know, that's your prevention, that's your intervention, that's your zero intercept right there. It's because they get to know their students, they get to know when there's an issue that comes about.
Mhm.
You know, if you have a student that struggles with, say, a mental health condition, and they've reached their tipping point, that guidance counselor is going to be able to intervene before they
It
get
becomes
tipped.
an issue, yeah, criminal
Before it
issue.
becomes an issue. The resource officer thing is sort of like when it happens, an intervention kind of thing. I've never worked in a school that had a resource
Mhm.
officer. There's always been guidance counselors, so I'm
Mhm.
not sure why that's not being discussed. Maybe it is being discussed about guidance counselors,
yeah, maybe, I don't know.
and because I know that they almost don't exist anymore. I mean, as a high school student, I heavily relied on my guidance
Yeah.
counselor to get me through high school, and
Sure.
she did, you know, and that's what I needed, and it probably prevented a lot of things from happening to me in my life, because I had someone that listened and knew me, you know, and knew what my skills were and what my potential was.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard for me to comment on this because I went to school so long ago. It was such a different situation in the country. We never had police in our schools, ever.
I don't follow.
And we never really needed them. I mean, there was always like a principal or a vice principal. The vice principal's most horrifying character in some of those schools.
The disciplinarian.
Right, they're always a disciplinarian.
But, you know, I would always lean on psychiatric evaluation, a school psychiatrist, a school guidance counselor. If that's working, great. If that has failures, let's talk about more school resource officers. But I would always tend to favor not traumatizing the child when they do something
Absolutely,
idiotic,
right.
but actually turn it into some kind of teachable moment. Can a SRO do that? Maybe. Maybe some of them are smart enough, but I know that an LCSW, a licensed social worker,
Right.
goes through so much more schooling and practice and interning and programs before they get their license, you know, so.
And they're in the schools too. I mean, they're
Mhm.
definitely, you know, in the schools. And, you know, but, you know, and also, as you said, you didn't have them when you were a kid, and we didn't either. It was a different world, a different time. It was, in this, well, anyway, I'm gonna say it. There was a different level of respect for authority. and whether it be a parental authority or a school authority. I mean, you know, we were terrified of the principal, especially the vice principal. And if you went to a Catholic school,
Mr. Kennedy.
you could say it, but it was, my aunt was a nun, and she was a principal of the school, and she was pretty scary. And so, you know, there was a different theme, I guess, back then, where people respected, and we didn't have that. We didn't have kids going into schools, you know, shooting back then. So the times have changed, but it's a matter of catching up with that. Greg, did you have
Well, I was just gonna ask, all due respect, like where we're at on the agenda, because I'm not sure this has really anything to do with our commission at all. A little bit, but
well,
not
no,
much.
actually, we did maybe get a little off track, but it's good information. And I was updating the commission on the fact that we spoke last time about having the principal and the police here to talk about it, and why I chose not to, and then we kind of, you know, opened that up a little bit more. So I think it's relevant. I think it's part of the it's part of what we were going to do this month and didn't. And you know, we can certainly.
So is there a specific like stand that we're trying to take on that? I mean, where do you see us fitting in? I mean, definitely, I think we've discussed advocating for the education budget and things like
Right.
that, I think is completely irrelevant, but.
Can I respond? I think what we were trying to figure out was if we're gonna have them come to an executive session, it may be helpful, maybe not tonight, but in the future for us to discuss how we're gonna approach them. You know, what your concerns are versus mine and so on. So just sort of getting those values out on the table.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
But I think we should definitely keep moving on the agenda.
Yeah, not a whole lot left. And I just put in these awareness month little notes because I found them online and thought it would be interesting seeing that. You know,
Is this
kind of a month.
also, is April anti-cruelty to animals month as well?
Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Month. Yes.
Maybe I'll write something about that.
And certainly, you know, the the recent court cases where, was it a guy was it in Boston? He got sentenced to, I think it was 10 years in jail for the dog abuse.
Hmm.
And there's been a few others in the state also.
Yeah, right here in town, not too long ago.
Yeah.
Couple times, so,
Really?
yeah. Messed up.
So April is National Autism Awareness Month, which probably everybody knows because that's out there. Child Abuse Awareness Month, National Black Women's History Month, and Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Month. I mean, this is only just like a few that I picked out of a huge list.
So on the 13th, it got rescheduled from the 6th, I believe, but on the 13th, on Friday at noon, there will be school children singing. There will be members of the task force that's associated with child abuse awareness, and Dave Sullivan and his crew will be down there, so it's like a full half an hour of like singing and promoting awareness and speakers. So I am already slotted to film that for my employer.
So where is it?
But that's going to be right on the town common.
Oh.
So
I
come
did
down
see-
at lunch,
Yes,
yeah.
I did see
Down at
something
lunch,
about that
yeah.
it was going to be on
Yeah.
on the 6th, but they
'Cause I think-
changed it.
I mean, we're really lucky that like we live in a world at this point in history is so much more child-friendly than ever before in human history.
Child-centered.
But there's still a lot of crazy things that are going on, a lot of really horrible things that are happening to children. So I would just urge that human rights commissioners make an effort to show themselves there if you can.
So you said it was the 13th?
Yeah,
All right, and what time? Noon?
At noon.
Was it noon? Okay, that's good.
12 to 12:30.
Great. That'll be good. And Dave Sullivan has always been
Mhm.
kind of a leader in that child abuse awareness.
And there's a child abuse center here, isn't that up
Yeah.
at the cemetery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did open
A whole
one.
house, yeah.
Little shelter?
Yeah.
So, and then the old business, I just want to make sure that we're focused. And we may very well be, and maybe I'm not kind of feeling that we're focused, because we talked about so many different things, and I guess I just want to bring it up again as a topic. Do we want to do, like, have a calendar set up for, say, the next 6 months as to issues we're going to talk about? Or do we want to decide month by month? I mean, understanding that there'll be new things that come up too, but I just want to make sure that we're making the best use of our time and staying focused.
What might be helpful is to pick out the key things that we actually want to do and make a checklist or some kind of a statement about what steps we're going to be taking, and then keep track of all that. So like if Greg's job on Tuesday is to go somewhere and talk to someone, Tuesday evening, you should get an email back from him. And then that goes in your folder or whatever, I mean, I'm just saying that it might make it easier, because I know that when I was the chairman, it was so easy to sort of start something, but hard to get it to really come to completion.
Right.
And that might be just an administrative factor that we need to implement.
And as far as the emails, we just have to be careful that we're not violating the open meeting law. Just can't conduct business like that. But, so, I think that's a good idea, and I do want to be, more focused, and we may very well be focused, but I just don't realize that it's quick.
Well, I think there's two tracks that we always have. Like we have what we've been doing, which is the things that we pick out, the homelessness. They're obviously major issues, but we are putting it forward. And so that probably could be mapped out over the series of months. But then there's the other piece of it, which I think, and I've been like a broken record on this, but there's got to be things happening in this city that we're not hearing about. I think that's a big part of this commission, is like people are supposed to be bringing those things into us. We still don't have an anonymous form for people to fill out. There's really no way to contact us without making it pretty well known who you are.
Right.
And I think that's a big problem.
Because it's the numbers from the mayor's office on the website.
Right,
It's-
exactly.
Didn't we
So-
talk about putting up a page on the website as an anonymous complaint form?
Yeah,
We
it's
did,
been
we
discussed and hasn't happened, but, I think it's great, all the things that we bring up and talk about and all the actions that we're taking. I think that's very focused, and, you've been doing a good job keeping us on it every month to month.
Thank you.
But then there's this other piece where I just ask myself, like I think you're thinking, what do we really,
Well, and I think I had talked about this a number of times in the past, and maybe now that we have a new reporter, we can do this, which is to have, and I thought we should do it for all the committees and commissions in town, but have an article in the paper as to what they really do, and not just after a meeting. This is what the Human Rights Commission does, or this is what the school committee, whatever. I would much rather, of course, just focus on the human rights, but maybe Dan can do something like that to give us like a little, spiel in the paper, an article, and discuss what we do and what we should be doing and what we could be doing, and how we need the community to make sure that they know we're a user-friendly commission, and that they should be able to come in here or contact anybody.
That'd be the type of thing that we could write and give to them, because they'll need that information anyway.
Right.
My turn
Right.
from the Human
Yeah.
Rights Commission.
Or,
For the towns, yeah.
or
Yes.
maybe we could hear for once from our civil rights officer pursuant to town ordinance. With a
Right.
civil rights report that he's supposed to give us.
That is a very good point, Lou. We should be
It's the
due
chief
to
of
receive
police.
that soon.
And it's the chief of police, correct?
Seems to
Hey,
be
yeah.
what they would like, so.
So there's a great place to start from somebody who should know what the civil rights issues in the community are.
And what a great
Yeah,
way to create a good relationship.
I would even go so far.
Opportunity to create a good relationship with Bob.
I would make a motion that we request from the civil rights officer a civil rights report at a time of his choosing.
Second.
That we, I guess, that we ask him when, can we count on a regular annual or biannual report on that,
Monthly.
or monthly?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion?
Very good point.
Any discussion on that, or positive or negative, or against or for, or whatever, Sarah?
I like the concept of asking for a report, but I would like the frequency to be more frequent, not just semi-annual or biannual. You know, the pulse of our community, you know, in the context of his time, but give us a snapshot of that. In addition, I'd also like for them, and I don't even know if this is doable for the town bylaws, but you call into the police department, you can call the non-emergency number. Why couldn't we have an extension that someone can leave an anonymous message, and that only the chair or whoever, whatever the mechanism can
Right.
access those messages? Because that's what, there's no way for the community, other than to attend our meetings,
Yeah.
to really, you know, and some of these requests are urgent. You know, if you have a civil rights violation and you want to talk to someone, and you may not have time to be running all over the place looking for
wouldn't
someone to
get-
talk to.
To the first part of what you said, and Greg too, your motion about asking for these things in a timetable on his terms, we're due this. We don't have to ask for anything. And to the best of my knowledge, since this ordinance passed the city council, we haven't heard peep from them.
Okay.
So, and I don't advocate a confrontational approach necessarily. I don't think we should be asking anything. I think we should be inquiring as to where our civil rights report is.
And how often we're gonna get it.
Agreed.
Right. How long?
Yeah.
And then also to say, it would really help us if we could get these every month or every 2 months or whatever.
Right, it's silly, you know, they passed the ordinance and I would say 0 has really come
Right.
out of it. So we need to capitalize on the fact that that's an ordinance that was passed.
And also to find out how often they're required to do it. It may be an annual thing, it may be semi, you know, we don't know, so, or I don't
Yeah,
know.
that would be
anyway. Do
great.
you know, Lou?
I think it's annual,
Okay.
but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's definitely important.
I think Sarah should make a motion about having the hotline or
Well,
some
we still have the other motion on
Okay.
the table though first, about contacting the civil rights officer. So we've had, any more discussion on that? Because we've had the motion, a second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed.
Yeah, the hotline's a great idea, and, you know, in Philippe's term, I know you requested multiple times of the webmaster, whatever it might be, for just like a form, which is so simple. And the police have one on their page, which is good, you know, but it still asks your name and stuff. You know, so a hotline or anonymous form, both probably would be good.
Sure.
I mean, you're totally right, there's gotta be something, because that part of our, and I know we were gonna talk about chapter 136 here, that whole piece of this commission is non-existent. There's no way, if I was just a guy like in town and something happened to me, I would have no idea. Like, beyond the police, who would I go to? And if I found this commission, how would I contact them without coming here or calling the city, you know?
So I can move to
City
make a
Hall?
motion to explore the feasibility
Make your
of.
Take care of
We should just put it on the agenda for next month
Wanna
and have
do
a
that?
full discussion about it, yeah.
Yeah.
And give us a month to
I'll
like come
suspend
up
the
with some,
motion
an array of like, where we could actually, like, the form, the hotline, are there some other places? I totally agree with you, but I think
Yeah.
we should have some time to discuss it when like everybody's here.
Yeah.
I
And
think
get them all
agreed.
on board.
Yeah, agreed.
Lou, get back.
So I
Here we
do have a
go.
question though, if we're gonna be exploring it, is there something that maybe you can do in the meantime and ask a question about? that?
Yes.
Is it feasible to attach a hotline to the police non-emergency number?
Mhm.
It's already existing, you can connect, you know, and we can even have a website that is linkable from the police department, you know, for the anonymous tip. Like they have an anonymous tip line that you can call and you don't have to, you just say, this is happening, click. They're not gonna call you back,
Right.
you know, so I'd like for that to be just maybe ready for next time so that we can understand what the reality of doing something like that
Yeah,
is.
I'll definitely check that out. And I think the idea of a form online, which we had come up with before, which was great, the phone option may be more easily accessible. not everybody has access to a computer or could know how to finagle their way through the Human Rights Commission webpage. But I think the phone would be, for me, it would be a more preferred measure. But maybe not. I mean, I think the form online is good too, but I think.
We should do it all. Make it
Yeah.
easy access all the way
Right,
across.
further
it.
out.
It should be easily.
Yeah, because you can also leave those forms in town hall, you know, there's a place where you can
Right.
leave forms for people, you
Right.
can pick them up, you can put them in the town clerk's office or something, they can
Mhm.
just, you know, in a place that's kind of nondescript, they can just go in, pick it up
And
and
if you
leave.
have forms, they don't have to be restricted to just the town clerk's office. They can be put in places where we expect that there are, you know,
Yeah.
people who might need us, you know?
Self-discovery.
Yeah, just-
Well,
Summer
yeah.
project, yeah.
And that's why I think the article in the paper would be valuable, because it could spell all of that out, and then we can have those other things in place.
And list the,
And-
and list like the locations where you can pick up.
Right.
the
Yeah,
form.
right, once we have a plan in place, write an article about it,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely makes sense.
We need to, I think, you know, not advertise, but put out there who we are.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because, you know, if we're talking about chapter 136, you know, I looked at it, and the thing that struck me was just the community engagement, you know, to work with municipal government departments, school department
Mhm.
commissions, boards, and the general public. I don't see a lot of engagement going on. I see a lot of wonderful conversations that we've had, and ordinances passed and things, but I don't see this entity out in the public spaces, you know, at events and things. And remember the summer days when there was the table, that brought a lot of awareness to the commission.
Mhm.
You
It did.
know, and a lot of people
To the
were
community, yeah.
were talking about like, oh wow, it's really nice to have you, you know, because I wasn't part of, I was just over there, but you know, I heard the chatter, and a lot of people, oh, I didn't know, and I said it on this side too, I didn't know how to interface with this commission because I knew somebody. You shouldn't have to know a commissioner to know
Right,
what we
and-
do.
Right.
And community engagement is my thing, and I really would like for, you know, as our schedules allow, for us to do more community engagement.
I think it's crucial. Community engagement is crucial. Me and Greg were doing something like that in an informal way, just walking up and down the street on Saturday afternoons and talking to people who seemed to be homeless or just out there in the street who wanted to talk to somebody about, you know, issues. Organizations like this and businesses and community groups and stuff that do things like that in the community are usually underfunded.
Absolutely.
And the way that you create more power and more resources is to really sink your teeth into the community and to really provide that access
Right.
from the community into your commission or your
Right.
business. It's something that is so crucial.
Then you're gonna see those chairs full and not empty.
Right, and I
Yeah.
think, yeah, tonight, because I did stop the school stuff, you know, I think there would have been more people here for that, but then I realized it may have been duplicating their efforts. And to contact Dan ahead of time to let him know what's going on, but I do think an article or something in the paper about the commission would begin that process. And would say, you know, who are we, what do we do, why are we here? And some of the accomplishments too, but I think that's critical, so. I guess we cannot adjourn because we don't have a quorum to vote on. Gonna have to
We
stay
just have
here.
to sit here all night.
Here we are.
I've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
two 64 gigabit cards, and we can sit here for about 10 hours. I get about 10 hours of film. in there.
2 AM.
So
Man, this town charter.
we didn't have any more discussion on the order and structure?
Well, I think we
I
should
think
come
we
back
did.
to chapter 136 here, because there's a lot of stuff in there.
Oh, there
like,
is, yeah, I haven't considered
the
that.
fact that we're supposed to formulate a budget and request it and seek donations for our operations. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Like, we're authorized to basically operate a human rights organization here,
Sorry about that.
you know, and we make do with no budget and et cetera, and I think we do a lot with nothing. But there's educational goals that we can meet if we did have a small amount of funding.
And the mayor did say to me when I was chairman, he says, I didn't put any budget out for you guys, but if you want to do something, come and talk to me about
Right.
it. We'll get you the money.
Yeah, he's been very open.
But if there's no funds in the budget and we're under budget, we're already pinching pennies out everywhere around town, like that concept makes me a little comfortable, to be honest, that just come to me, because if the funds aren't there and we're doing something that's really important, that the community has identified that they would like us to do, we're kind of restricted, and I think.
We're at the
that-
mercy of.
At the mercy, yes, absolutely, and we can raise funds, like, that might be something that we can explore how to do that.
Definitely.
So, let's see, all right, so our next meeting is May 14th. Let's double check that, 'cause
When the good weather starts.
Yeah, it'd be nice with Fuller House to kind of revisit, pretty much revisit everything that we talked about tonight. We'll
Yes.
have the response from the mayor.
Right.
Yeah.
And really, I did want to use tonight's meeting also as to the order and the structure of the commission and the calendar, and kind of, just make sure we're still on the same page, that, we're a commission, we're kind of representative of the community, where there's decision-making diversity, things of that nature, and we all have so much, we all came to the commission for a reason, because we care deeply about human rights and other people and protecting their rights. And I think that's all on the table. But how we get to those goals and how we get to those solutions can be, different for each of us. And we have to bring all those together in one pot and, have it come out as something really good. So that's my.
Excellent.
Yeah, so the results are the hardest part,
You get the right ingredients and then mix it up, and there we are.
That's my style of cooking.
Yeah. And I guess we do have to stay. No.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
only if you swear to come next month.
I will come next month. I promise.
All right,
I
well,
promise.
I second that.
And
Then
try
we'll
not-
adjourn.
And not too much swearing, though. You asked them to swear to come, I was like,
I
what is
consent
that?
to come.
Yeah.
Oh, did
I'm
I
going to
just
swear
swear?
to come. I said I'm consenting to come.
All right.
And we can't vote on it because we don't have a quorum, but clearly we have to end.
Yeah.
There's so much just walking out. Well, we're still on.
All of our productions at GCTV are sponsored in part by Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3191 or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. Visit them at gcc.mass.edu. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com. Call them at 772-0838 and check them out on Facebook. Real Cleaning Services, cleaning Hampshire and Franklin County since 1972. We don't cut corners, we clean them. Check them out online at realclean.com. Call them at 413-422-1143. People's United Bank, located at 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. You can call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. The Solar Store of Greenfield, replacing fossil fuels and nuclear power one home at a time. Visit them at 23 Fisk Ave. Call them at 413-772-3122 or visit them online at solarstoreofgreenfield.com. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all of GCTV's productions.